Afternoon, everyone. You're watching Campus France Like 6 Live. Thanks a lot to be there with us. Today, we're going to talk about higher education in France with the Sciences Po PSIA, the Paris School of International Affairs, which trains and shapes global actors to understand and respond to the complexities of our world. And I'm very pleased to welcome today Marc Maloney. Hi.
Hello.
You're the Vice Dean and Acting Dean. We're also with Cecilia Baeza Rodriguez. Hi. You're the academic advisor. We are with Katarina Larangera. Hi. You're academic advisor, assistant dean for admissions. And we have few students and alumni. Noor Fegali. Hi. You're the student in the Master in International Development. We're also with Iku Marwati. Hi.
Hello.
You're a graduate of the Master of Human Rights and Humanitarian Action, and we're also with Anthony Asiu. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
You're an alumni of the Master in International Security. Let's begin with a quick introduction. Can you present the PSIA of Sciences Po Paris, Marc?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Guillaume, for this opportunity to be with you today. So the Paris School of International Affairs is one of 7 graduate schools at Sciences Po. As it says on the box, we're the school where you study international affairs. We'll tell you a little bit more about the programs in a minute. We are a school which is very proud of the diversity of our student body. We have 1,600 students that we attract from around the world, amongst the best and the brightest, and they represent 70% of them are non-French, so international students, and they come from over 110 countries. So this is one of our big elements. The other thing is that we have also an equally diverse mix of faculty, really extraordinary people who are both leading academics, world-class academics, but also, sorry, this is echo. Also practitioners who are leaders in their fields, and they come from a range of sectors and organizations. And together, the student diversity, the quality of the offer, we prepare our students to become leaders in the fields, diplomats, government officials, but also in the private and non-for-profit sector as well. We're excited about our school, and we're looking for students who want to take on the challenge to address the major issues of the day.
Cecilia, can you tell us a few words about the masters that you offer? What are the different opportunities to study in the PSIA?
So we have 7 master's programs. I will mention them: the Master in International Development, the Master in International Security, the Master in Environmental Policy, the Master in International Energy, the Master in Human Rights and Humanitarian Action, the Master in International Governance and Diplomacy, and mine, the Master in International Economic Policy. So those are the 7 programs, and we also offer a large series of concentrations. They are like minors, I would say, in other universities. They are called like that. Concentrations, we have both thematic and regional concentrations. So it's a way to specialize. You have your program, but then you can specialize in a specific geographical area or domain.
Noor, can you tell us a few words? Why did you choose to study the Master in International Development?
Of course. So actually, it was the byproduct of an existential crisis out of quarantine, which I think most of the world experienced. But at the time, I was working in a certain industry, and then I wanted to pivot into something that really I used to spend most of my free time trying to understand what's happening in the developing world, coming from it myself as well, growing up in Lebanon, and deciding that I wanted to dedicate really all of my energy and time to development studies. And so I was taking a look at the program, and I researched, the Sciences Po Master in International Development. The professors' profiles, as was mentioned, are extremely impressive that I wanted to learn from. The course offering was so diverse. Honestly, if I could take all of them, I would love to, but unfortunately I can't. And the concentrations were also phenomenal. So that's all coupled with, the student life, the opportunity to be based in Paris, which is central for international affairs. All of those, combined really fed into that decision.
Thanks a lot. No, I think we have a little issue with your connection. The Backstage are going to see what's happening, and we will be back with you. Iku, same question for you. Why did you choose a Master of Human Rights and Humanitarian Action?
Right, thank you for your question. So my name is Iku Marwati. I'm from Indonesia. So yeah, I chose Sciences Po for studying Master in Human Rights and Humanitarian Action because this particular program offers a very diverse courses where we could tailor our concentration. So I'm really passionate about the gender-related study that I would like to qualify for advanced certification in gender study program. And Sciences Po has that kind of particular courses where I could follow gender-related classes and met lots of diverse experts from different regions fighting for women empowerment issues and gender equality programs. So that's the reason why I chose Sciences Po. And I think because of the regional and thematic concentration also, it's really unique because we could tailor our own courses based on our interests. That's really unique. And also because I noticed that a perfect combination of our professor. So it's not only academia, but we also have practitioner. So it's somehow like build the gap between the theory and the practical knowledge. So that's the reason why I chose this program. Yeah.
And we're going to talk about that. I see that you're reacting. That's something important for you, this balance between theory and practical.
Absolutely. We think this is one of the things that sets our school apart. The fact that we have this equal balance between academic faculty and practitioners who teach. And what it does is it helps students to obviously understand the important theories and concepts of international affairs, while also to getting a real sense of how it plays out in the field, as it were. So this is something which we're very proud of, and as I said, it's a distinguishing feature of our school, along, of course, with the diversity of our student body.
Cecilia, can you tell us in which languages are the different masters taught?
Sorry, can
in
you
which languages they are taught?
Yeah. So PSIA in general, most of the courses are taught in English. You don't need to be a French speaker to be able to follow your studies at PSIA. We have a small minority of courses that still are taught in French, because we also understand that some of our students, in fact, are keen to take some courses in French. So our courses in French are not intended for French students, but more also for students who want to maintain and maybe improve their language skills in French. But again, and I think this is very important to really be stressed, is the fact that you don't need to speak French to study at PSIA. Really, the vast majority of our courses are taught in English.
And Mark, what are the different accreditation of the masters?
So we have the vast majority of our students study over a course of 2 years, and there are 3 ways in which they can study. They can either do a full 2 years with us at PSIA, and those are in the 7 specializations that Cecilia mentioned earlier. They can combine a year of study at Sciences Po with a year of study at one of our partner universities. We have 14 partner universities in France and internationally, amongst the most reputable universities in the world, stretching from the United States all the way to China. And the third way to study is with a joint degree with our School of Journalism. We actually have a joint degree in journalism and international affairs. So those are the 80% of our students do a full 2 years at PSIA. About 20% do the 2 years, a year at PSIA and a year at the Partner Institute. And then we have a 1-year program called the Masters in Advanced Global Studies, which is specifically for people who have already 5 years of professional experience, and they do an accelerated 1-year program. At the end, all students come out with a Master of Sciences Po. And for those who do the 1-year program, it's the same master's program, but the only difference with it is it doesn't carry the grade de master, which in France is something important, but typically for our students who do the 1-year program, it's not a requirement at all. So they all get a master's degree.
And we're now going to watch a quick video to discover more about the PSIA program, and we will be back just after that.
In the early 2000s, the big change in the international relations obliged to change also the way to teach international relationships. This is why PSIA. The idea was to teach people in diversity, in new understanding, the relationship between different continents, and not only a European approach, but a very global approach, and the idea to have interdisciplinary methods.
Our students goes from philosophy to law and economics, elements of economics as well, but also then evolve into a more really practical oriented course, looking at programs, looking at real life experiences, and look at that from a critical perspective.
Feminist foreign policy is a very new concept. With this course, I'm looking to offer students a very practical feedback of what it means to be working either as a diplomat for a government, for an international organization, as a civil society activist, even working in a company, working towards advancing gender equality.
The only way to understand NATO is to play NATO. Terrenia is a role-playing exercise for my students, where they play decision-making at the highest level of NATO. So they develop skills in negotiation and also an understanding of the organization.
The NATO Hackathon was a big competition between 10 world-leading universities which aimed to support Secretary Generals to face the problems of the next decade. Personally, I learned a lot about how NATO can use technology, or what is a realistic way for NATO to set up some measures to safeguard the population in a postmodern conflict.
Youth and Leaders Summit really helped us develop our public speaking skills, which are so crucial if you want to work in international environment.
I really gained a lot from my participation, especially my topic was about the cooperation between China and the world on combating the global climate change. I have the opportunity to be connected with the most important influential experts on this topic.
My involvement in the Youth and Leaders Summit was to basically organize breakout session with the former president of Colombia, Juan Manuel Santos, who also happened to be Nobel Peace Prize laureate. We had a great talk with him and the rest of the students at the Master in Advanced Global Studies.
For my master's thesis at PSIA, I conducted a study on online harassment against journalists. I interviewed over 25 people dealing with this in press freedom organizations, in journalist professional associations, and individual consultants and researchers.
We were to lead a research project for the AFD. During 4 months, we were to study the past interventions, state-building interventions in fragile contexts and countries that were in crisis, and we were to give recommendations for companies for their future state-building operations.
I did my internship in local network of United Nations Global Compact in Indonesia under Women Empowerment Division for Target Gender Equality Program. It is an accelerated program for more ambitious target in women leadership for the private sectors within Global Compact communities.
We came together last year to create this platform called New Global Perspectives. Our niche is to feature subject matter experts and to give them a platform in the international policy debate where they can present their ideas through short opinion pieces.
The purpose of Déclic is to allow students and recent graduates to elaborate their ideas, discuss with experts, with your teachers and a lot of people to make sure afterwards that you can put in place your proposal into law.
PSIA definitely helped us looking at a new vision of public action in France, but also in Europe, brought us an incredible community of students, very diverse from all around the world, that we could benefit from having different point of views and finding convergence.
And what we're trying to do is just ensure them that they are well trained, that they do have the skills necessary to do this, to have faith and to not make too quick decisions to take the first job that's offered, but really to think about what they want to do. We're trying to encourage them, enable them to do so, and we're here to continue to support them for the years after they graduate to do that. We have every confidence in our students, and we just want to make sure, as far as possible, that they also feel confident in themselves.
You're You're still watching Campus France. Thanks a lot to be there with us. We're going to talk, and we're talking today with Sciences Po and the PSIA program, and we're now going to talk about the pedagogy and the program of the different masters. Cecilia, how is the pedagogy organized? What are the different classes, courses that the students can have in the masters?
So typically we have both seminars and lectures. So lectures are more for a large audience, but the majority, I would say, of our courses are more seminars because we put very much emphasis on the participation of students. It's very, very important for us that there is space for students to really engage with the professors. So there are smaller classes with 20 to 25 students in a class. And in terms of progression over the semesters, students would typically find more lectures in the first semester because they need to build the theoretical foundation in terms of knowledge of the program, and then in the second, from the second semester, you will find more seminars, more practitioners as your professors. So there is really a progression in the way we organize our curriculum.
And can you give some examples of the subject that the students can learn in the different programs?
Yes, of course. So let's take international economic policy, for example. So in the first semester, you will find lectures such as in international trade, and second semester, international macroeconomics. We have very, very lucky to have permanent faculty who are also professors, very, very famous in the field. It's really up to date, in terms of research, and they are also often involved in policy making process, even in France. So I think it's really, we are privileged to have this permanent faculty. But we have also courses like economic diplomacy, which is much more oriented towards practice of economic diplomacy. We have a simulation we do with 3 other universities across the world. So with a university in the US, the University of San Diego, HEC Montréal in Canada, and the university in South Korea. And together, the students of all these universities, they do a simulation where they have to draft the final communique of the G20 summit. So and the professors are practitioners. So it's very interesting, and we have really, again, this mix which makes, I think, PSIA very unique between theory and practice.
For you, Mark, it's important to have your students acting like professional, like beginning to take decision, to discuss all around the world with people. That's what they're going to do after graduating. That's what you want them. That's what you want them to do while they are studying.
Absolutely, we are a professional school, and by definition, that means that we're training students to prepare to enter the workforce, or to re-enter the workforce for those who have some experience already. And it's true at PSIA, we typically get students who are a little bit more mature on average than the typical Sciences Po student, and that's because we attract such a high proportion of international students who typically get some experience between their first degree and their master's program. So they come in with a very clear understanding of what they want to do, and of course they have some experience already, and we want to sort of build on that. And so in addition to the 3 semesters that students spend studying in the classrooms of Sciences Po, they also spend 1 classroom outside the walls of the school. And that was the video we just saw, where students are engaged in a variety of projects, from internships, but some are also doing master's thesis, and that also too is very much part of their preparation for the world of professional work.
Noor, maybe can you describe a little bit the different classes, the different lectures and seminary that you are following right now?
Yes, of course. So one of the courses that I'm taking right now is on developing and emerging economies, and it really helps to assess this economic, socio-political basis of what has historically happened in the world, how that, where certain developing countries and economies are now, and what it is that we need to do in the future in order to alleviate, certain situations from poverty, how to create certain economic policies that are effective. Another interesting course is a geopolitical analysis class that I'm taking through my diplomacy concentration, which is extremely interesting. We get to one of the seminar classes where I, as an international development actually in a classroom with people in international security and human rights and international economic policy and international as well. So we get to really deliberate and talk about different geopolitical issues from very different perspectives, which is very interesting. So it's really getting to learn a lot from our profession, also getting to learn a lot from each other and the experiences that everyone had. And another interesting one is also politics of international migration. And this one is just absolutely fascinating. It has brought to my attention really parts are in place, how the phenomenon of migration is studied within the academic world, because I, for one, am like a second-time migrant right now in my life. So there's a lot of things that I have lived as lived experiences that now I'm seeing through a more structured perspective, and learning the history of it and how different migration flows take place in different areas of the world. You know, what drives people to migrate, and different craft policies to work on integration efforts, and really evaluate the gender aspect of it, the political economy aspect of it as well. So lots of very cool classes.
And maybe Aiku, how was it for you to be a student at the PSIA of Sciences Po? Was it like a lot of time spent at the library doing research, or a lot of time with other students to prepare some oral examination, to prepare some group projects? How was it for you?
All right. So in addition to what had been mentioned about the classes, I pretty much really enjoy my courses in Sciences Po, despite the fact that half of classes were in online format, but somehow it's still engaging. I have lots of classes where I had a participation in a collaborative project. I remember that I took advocacy class with Professor Lex Paulson, where we got a chance to actually collaborate with Obama scholars. In that class, I participated in building stakeholders mapping and advocacy planning to private sector to convince them about the return investment in sexual and health reproductive program in Nigeria. So it's really like a theory, but at the same time giving us like the practical knowledge and the opportunity to implement what we have learned. But that's the thing that I would like to share. And then the second would be, it is true that master program in PSIA, it's quite intense. We have lots of classes, but we also have the opportunity to have like a small group discussion with professor, where we could consult about a particular issue that we may have our area of interest. So that's really a great opportunity, I would say.
And Cecilia, is it possible for the student who want to learn French during the masters?
Yes, of course. So there are two ways, I would say. You can take French as an optional class, as an optional course. The language department is very famous at Sciences Po, is really excellent, and a lot of our students, because they come to France, of course they want to learn French as well. Is really part of their learning experience in France. But at PSIA, in addition to this, we also offer French intensive session at the beginning of every semester. So students are not obliged, in fact, to be registered for French classes during the semester to be able to register for those intensive sessions. But yes, we really encourage, of course, our international students, when possible, to study French, because we really think it's part of their experience in Paris, of course.
If you're joining us, thanks a lot to be there with us. We're talking about the PSIA program of Sciences Po, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask them directly on the chat section. And now we're going to talk about admission, because now maybe if you're watching us, you're asking yourself, how can I apply? And that will be our main question with you, Katharina. Thanks a lot to be there with us, Katharina. My first question is really easy. What background do you require to apply?
Hi everyone, thank you so much for having me. So in terms of background, it's an easy question, but the answer is not that easy actually, because when we consider the background, we have different ways of looking at it. It can be the academic background in terms of which discipline. This is a question that we get a lot because we are a school of international affairs, in a school of social sciences. We do get the question of, do I need to have a previous diploma in political science or law or any of the social sciences disciplines? Actually, no, not to apply for PSIA. We are very open. We love the diversity of backgrounds of our students. It enriches the classes, and we know from experience that those students can also do very well at PSIA. However, when it comes to the academic background in terms of academic level, this is where we are a little bit more, or very much so, demanding. It comes as no surprise that Sciences Po and PSIA programs are very selective, and we do look for outstanding students, academically speaking. I would also like to invite the prospective students that are watching us right now to go to Sciences Po's admissions website. As you may know, the admissions at Sciences Po, they are actually managed centrally by the Sciences Po's admissions office. And we have a list of minimum requirements, a minimum grade, average grade at the bachelor's level per country, so that students can evaluate whether they would be non-admissible, because not meeting this minimum requirement will make applicants actually automatically non-admissible. However, meeting this minimum requirement does not guarantee in itself admissibility or even admission, because again, coming to the background of the students, we also look not only at students being academically outstanding, but also having some professional experience. So I know that usually the idea of a professional experience can be scary, especially for students who are currently finishing their bachelor, but we understand the experience very broadly. So we look into internships, we look into volunteering activities, we look into social outreach or any kind of activity they could have been involved in during their studies. And the other element that is very, very important is the motivation that can be expressed in the personal statement.
And what are the different steps to apply to one of the program of the PSIA?
I'm sorry.
What are the different steps to apply? What is the process to apply?
Sure. Apologies. The sound is a little bit is not that excellent. But the different steps, I would say the first step, the absolute number one step for everyone, is to go on the Sciences Po admissions website and very carefully read all the information that is available there. There are a lot of different processes. There are a lot of different admissions pathways. There is the international procedure, the national procedure, and everything is very, very well explained on the website, so that applicants can be guided through what is the right procedure and the different steps. I would say the students should be checking their eligibility, so to which procedure they would, which procedure would correspond to them. Then look at the admissibility criteria and selection criteria. Check the deadlines. This is so important, especially for students who would be interested also in applying for a scholarship, because the deadlines are different. So it's very, very important. The international admissions procedure is a rolling admissions system. So there are different moments in which students can apply and be informed of the results. Again, everything is listed on the website. And then the important step is also to look at all the documents that are required to complete their application. And I also would like to draw prospective applicants' attention to it, because the list of documents is pretty comprehensive. We ask for a resume, we ask for the personal statement, the transcripts, we ask for an English test, if applicable, and we also ask for referees. So there's a lot of documents that applicants can do by themselves. You know, your resume, your personal statement, it's on your own time. But there are a lot of other documents that actually depend on either the results of a test or references and your referees and your professors. So it's very, very important to start the process as early as possible to make sure that you can meet the deadline. And as a reminder, the final deadline for the international procedure is February the 27th. And I'm not mentioning dual degrees right now. I'm not getting into that because that's another and a whole nother set of deadlines.
Anthony, to have an example, what was your background before joining the program?
Sure. So before I had decided to apply to Sciences Po, to PSIA, I was working in DC. I started my following undergraduate. I started as an intern for about 6 months at the National Democratic Institute. And there I was focusing on the Middle East, North Africa, working with activists in the region. And so I did that for about 6 months, and then I ended up getting a job working at the Department of Justice in the asset forfeiture money laundering section. But I wasn't doing anything specific to what my goals were career-wise. I was more so just an administrative role, office management role. So I did that for about 1.5 years before choosing to apply to Sciences Po.
And maybe Aiku, can you give us some tips for the personal statement? How did you do to write a good personal statement, and what would be your advice for the future applicants to have a successful personal statement?
All right, thank you for the question. So I think motivation letter is really an important part in the admission process. So my tips would be genuine, share your thoughts and your aspiration, why you want to pursue your master degree, what are supporting background that make you the way you are today, and what you'll do later on once you are well equipped with those knowledge that you acquire from Sciences Po. Try to learn Sciences Po curriculum itself as well, so that you know how your aspiration, your expectation could meet. Be genuine about that, and it's. I think it's also really important to highlight our community development or social contribution towards our own community, to our home community, to show that we do really care about this particular issue, and we need to actually nurture our knowledge in this master program. So that's what I could share. Yeah.
Katarina, we have a last question for you regarding the administrative steps to come to France, because there is a lot of procedure with the visa and all the different questions that you can have if you're a non-European student. How do you help the students with all the different administrative steps to come to study in France?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Being admitted is just the first step to a succession of administrative, not obstacles, but steps to take before actually finally arriving. And we are very, very lucky at Sciences Po to have, and so of course PSIA students benefit from it as well, of course, to have a great what we call the accueil administratif, so the registrar's office that is composed by a housing department, a visa service. We also have partnerships with banks to help students also open up a bank account. So we are able to help our students way before they arrive. So as soon as they get their official admissions letter, we can help them and guide them through the different steps in how to ask for a visa. And of course, we rely a lot on Campus France to help us in this process. And then we reach out to them very, very regularly. I tend to joke about that and say that, you know, their mailbox will be filled up with emails coming from the different services of Sciences Po, but it is really to make sure that they get all the necessary information before they arrive. And of course, their academic advisors, so Cecilia, myself, and all our colleagues, we also are some kind of a point of entry for all our students, not only for academic issues, but also to help them get ready to settle in their new Parisian life. So we try to provide as much to accompany them as much as possible, as soon as they are admitted, up until they arrive. We organize information sessions to answer all of their questions. And if I may, another tip on that is really, time is the essence for everything. Time is the essence for your application, and time is the essence also for students to get ready to come to France.
Thanks a lot, Katarina, for all this advice, and we wish the best to the students who are going to apply and to make these different steps. We're now going to talk about the student life at Sciences Po and at the PSIA. And to begin, we're going to watch a little trailer to discover the new campus, which is going to come in 2022?
January.
Okay, in January, a new campus, and we will see how it looks like right now. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Katarina. And I think we don't have the video yet of the new campus. In the background, we are going to see. But before watching this little trailer, can you describe the campus life? Sciences Po is really a school in the city, in the heart of Paris.
Absolutely, that's exactly how we describe it. We're a school based in the heart of Paris, and it's a very vibrant community. Not just as I think all universities are in terms of a gathering of young people, but Sciences Po is particularly vibrant because of this international dimension. The fact that we have, I mean, PSIA, I've already said 70% of our students come outside of France, but for Sciences Po as a whole, there's now a majority of students who also come. So it is a wonderful environment. In addition to the offices that Katarina mentioned, the services that are coordinated in support of students for their visas and for housing, there's also a student life department, and they work with over 400 student associations, which allows students to organize activities in sports, cultural, artistic, anything they want to do, and they gather together in that way. And at PSIA, we have our own PSIA Students Association, whose job is to really bring together the students of the school through a range of activities and events, again, to sort of build a social life on top of course, the very serious academic studies that the students are doing as well. So that's an important part of what we do. At PSIA, I mean, I'll tell you more maybe in a minute about some of the events that we have, because that's always been a fundamental part of our school, is having your studies, having events, as well as the life beyond the campus.
And I don't know if in Backstage a video is ready to discover the new campus. I hope so. Do we have the video to discover the new campus of Sciences Po? You're still watching Campus France Live. Thanks a lot to be there with us, and we're still discovering the PSIA of Sciences Po. We've just seen a little trailer to discover the new campus directly in the heart of Paris. It's really green, it's really new, it's really modern.
Absolutely. I mean, we were all greatly surprised and amazed that there was still a piece of land like this in the heart of Paris, which hadn't yet been developed in this way, and the fact that Sciences Po was able to obtain it, and now we'll have this will be the new center of gravity for our campus, and PSIA will be moving to the site right next to it. So with all of the graduate schools of Sciences Po will be right there in that new center of the campus. We still will, of course, retain the school's home on the 27 Route Saint-Guillaume, 27 Saint-Guillaume Avenue. But this will be the new heart with the vast majority of teaching, a library facilities, and for the students as well.
Maybe Noor, can you describe the student experience at Sciences Po?
Yes, of course. I think Vicine Maloney actually used the most accurate word for it, which is vibrant. It's truly, there is so much energy in the halls of Sciences Po, and I truly couldn't believe it, honestly, at first, but there are so many opportunities to get involved on campus with different student organizations. So there are, as was mentioned, several hundred student initiatives that are related to sports, cultural, artistic activities, certain geographical locations. So there's the African Student Association, South Asia Society, there's the Sciences Po Monde Arabe. So for people who belong to a certain geographical region, or for those who are interested in it, there is the chance to learn more about it, or to congregate with people from similar backgrounds, or learn from those who come from different ones, which is very impressive. Another very cool thing that Sciences Po offers is the inaugural lectures and guest speaking events. So I know one that I went to a few weeks ago was a talk with the former Afghani Minister of Higher Education about, the goings on and the current events that were happening in Afghanistan. And even the fact that we were able to share a room with people who have gone through so much and who have such knowledge and backgrounds to share, and such a different perspective, is very humbling, and is very just impressive, the fact that students get access to those sorts of events. And then I know tomorrow as well, I'm actually going to another talk, which is in collaboration with Human Rights Watch, around ending military impunity in Myanmar. So it's just having access to events like these is really a great opportunity that is not guaranteed to have in any other institution, really. Students also have volunteering positions that we're able to apply for example, the Paris Peace Conference, at the International Humanitarian Studies Conference. And I know in January, there's one really big event, which is the Youth and Leaders Summit, that lots of people usually participate in as well. So, it's really an opportunity to come into very, very close contact with people who are out in the industries that we're interested in, whether it's human rights or the environment or energy, economy, security. No matter what it is, we really, get to connect with people in the industries that we want to go into, that we want to become leaders in, that we want to really make change in. So it's really phenomenal. And even on a personal level, if I think of the group of friends that I have made since I've gone to Sciences Po, and it's only been a few months now. I mean, we have at least 10 nationalities in our friend group, and I couldn't say that for most other places that I've lived or experiences that I've had. So really, I mean, the resources are there, and it's just a question of how much we utilize them. But it's really a very rich environment.
There is plenty of things to do, plenty of people to discover. That's important for you, Mark, to let the opportunity to students to have a lot of events and to discover a lot about France, about the international world, to have all of these experiences.
Absolutely, and I think we saw the video about the new campus, which solidifies our place in the heart of Paris, and it's being in the heart of Paris which makes these events possible. There are so many world leaders and leaders of industry who pass through Paris on a daily basis. And the fact that they only have to take a 10-minute taxi ride from the Élysée Palace or from wherever to come to Sciences Po to meet with our students is such an advantage of being in the heart of Paris. And that's what we think, again, is one of these things which is, and as Noor has just described, I mean, we're so proud of the fact that we can offer these amazing events on a weekly basis to our students, sometimes twice a week. And as Noor said, the Youth and Leaders Summit, which was an initiative of our previous dean, Enrico Letta, which was to try to find a way to really bring students and leaders together on a platform for debate. And this year we'll have our 7th edition of that. And every year, increasingly, students become more and more at the heart of it. They've always been involved in organizing and identifying themes, but since last year, they now are on the panels with the leaders and on equal platform. And we feel that's very important, both in terms of giving them the experience and the confidence, but also to making them realize that they are already change makers at PSIA.
Maybe 2 practical questions. The first one is about accommodation on campus on the city. How does it work for the student to find apartments? Do you have maybe a list, or do you have some tips to find them, or maybe some cruise residencies? How does it work?
So there is an accommodation office at Sciences Po, a central office, and of course they are the ones who are expert on that. There is no housing on campus because we're a city center campus, and so that we don't have buildings for that. But we have a long list of different types of accommodation to fit the different needs of students, including some residential accommodations in partnership with various organizations here in Paris. And so students can, prospective students and obviously admitted students can look on the website to see lists of actual accommodations available, but they can also make an appointment with the housing office to talk about their needs and how they can match that.
Another practical question, and maybe people watching us are asking it themselves. How much does it cost to study at the PSIA?
Okay. So there's a ticket price, which is the base price. And for this year, it's 18,000 euros. However, Sciences Po has a commitment that 30% of students should get some form of scholarship to come and study at the institution. And that is something which we're somewhere between 28 and 29%. And no doubt by next year, we'll hit that mark. And how, if you're a student who comes from the European Economic Area, meaning that you or your parents are earning your income in the European Economic Area, in fact, the tuition fee depends on the family income. So students who come from less advantaged backgrounds, so where maybe the family income is lower, they will pay proportionate to the income that they get. And in fact, there's a proportion of students every year who pay 0 tuition fees because of that. For international students, they don't have the same sliding scale that they do, so they pay 18,000. But we have a range of scholarships that are available to them. There's the Eiffel Scholarship, which of course is organized by Campus France. There's a Boutimi Scholarship, which is the big Sciences Po scholarship, and we're also part of the MasterCard Foundation, just to give 3 examples, which brings students from Africa to campuses like ours in Sciences Po. And so there's a ticket price, but there's also, as I said, these opportunities for students who are needy.
And we're now going to talk about the professional world and the way it's included in the PSIA and the different programs. Maybe I would like to give the opportunity to Anthony to speak, because I think that you have a really incredible job right now. Can you describe what you do right now and what you did directly after you graduate?
Sure. So right now I'm a foreign affairs officer with the U.S. Department of State. But I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always in this position. So when I graduated from PSIA, I felt like I pressed the reset button, similar to how I first started after my undergraduate career. And so it took me about 6 months to find a job, just coming back from France. Not so much because of just the timing or anything, but I think it was just the circumstances of just coming back from studying abroad and everything, and starting a new life again, if you will. But eventually, I found a job as a contractor with the Department of Justice, and then eventually made my way to the Department of Energy for about 5-6 months, and then I ended up at the Department of State initially as a contractor in my current office, and then I eventually switched to becoming a federal employee through a hiring process that I had been a part of, or a hiring authority rather, that I had been a part of because I studied in Jordan for about a year during my undergraduate career. So I had sort of this service obligation looming around me as I was over the last about 10 years that I had to just keep in mind when I was trying to obtain a new career. But now I'm Foreign Affairs Officer at the Department of State.
No, that's really incredible. That the kind of opportunities that your freshly graduate students can have. They can work in international organizations. They can work in their countries, in the administrative offices. They can have plenty of opportunities.
Absolutely. And the other sector, which hasn't been mentioned, is the private sector. And indeed, at the moment, about half of PSIA students upon graduation enter the private sector, and then the other half enter either government or international and non-government organizations. And we know that this is an important part of the program and the training that we provide for students from day one all the way through, and indeed beyond the point of graduation. And we have different elements to this. The first is we provide them with a rich range of resources, which helps them to really identify what it is they want to do. Then we have a series of events where we have faculty members, members from international organizations, alumni who can come and talk about the kind of experiences they've had. They have this third semester, which gives them a chance to get out and actually get some real world experience for those who don't have it, or to in a more specific area than what they have already. And then finally, through our alumni, we help them to build a network, so they also have a way to find and identify areas to go. So from the beginning, the professional project is part of our discussion, part of our language, and we're always reminding students about the need to have transferable skills, obtaining skills and identifying skills which they have but they may not have realized, which are the way to enter the workforce.
And you also have a career services, Cecilia, to help them to professional themselves, to know how to talk in an interview, all of these practical tips to have a good job after you graduate.
Yeah, absolutely. We have career services both at the level of Sciences Po, but we are very privileged to have someone at PSIA dedicated to our students. Both services, I think, are very complementary, but again, at PSIA in particular, we have someone who really guide our students, to navigate the professional world, giving them a lot of very practical tips and guidance, and also explaining. You were mentioning, Mark, the fact that a lot of students find a job in the private sector. We often explain to them that even working in the private sector, you can work, in fact, for the public good, in the sense that many times there is an ecosystem of organizations that work together. You can be working in a consulting firm that is actually working with multilateral organizations or governments. So we show them that it's also sometimes more complex than they think initially. And indeed, we have a career newsletter which provides a lot of information regarding internships. We showcase some professional skills that are becoming more and more relevant in the job market. So this is very important to us, to really accompany our students throughout the studies in terms of professional guidance and advice.
Aiku, you're freshly a graduate. Do you already know what you're going to do? Did you already find an opportunity to work, or are you still looking for something special for you?
All right. So thank you very much for the question. I found that really relevant, actually. In the COVID-19 pandemic situation, I think it's a very trying time, a tough time for everyone. But for the recruitment process itself, it may take some time. But I do really hope that we can keep our spirit alive and keep trying for any kind of possible opportunities, because for sure that Sciences Po provides lots of help through their PSIA career as well, and also in the level of Sciences Po as a university. And we also have like the alumni network. I'm currently interning at the OECD under Global Relations Secretariat for South Asia and Southeast Asian Division, with a specific focus on OECD Indonesia country-specific engagement. So I happen also to see this internship opportunity from LinkedIn page from the alumni networks. So in that time, I messaged some of Sciences Po alumni who had been working in a project and asked their tips and their advice how to land the application at the OECD so that I could prepare myself better for my application and for the whole recruitment process. And with special agreement between OECD and Sciences Po, I found that the process of issuing the contract or convocation de stage usually takes so much time to be really efficient and super fast. And yeah, I'm currently doing the internship, but then recently I also got the offer a permanent job in Indonesia in one of Indonesia's unicorn as a public policy analyst and also community development officer. So yeah, I think it's really important to highlight that we do not compare ourselves to others in this critical period of time, but we need to keep the spirit alive and keep trying and try to do our best with lots of facilities that we got from our campus. Yes.
Mark, maybe to conclude on this topic, we can see that PSIA helps students to find a job which makes sense for them and which looks like their value and what they want to do in their life and how they want their life to help the other and help the organization and make maybe the world a better place. That's the idea of PSIA.
Absolutely. In fact, that's a bit of our strapline is that to make the world a safer and better place is very much what we're trying to achieve. And of course, as Cecilia has just said, I mean, there are many different ways to achieve that. Of course, there's international organizations and government agencies, but the private sector can also help in this way. And in fact, it's increasingly obvious that the private sector must play an important role to do this. And I'm heartened to hear that even in this period of time, we do know that our students are very successful in securing jobs. 80% of our students secure a job within 6 months of graduation, including a third before they even graduate, in a range of sectors and areas, and internationally. Most of our students take work outside of France. They either go back to their home countries or go to some other country, but they also find work in France, including those who started from outside. And students also know, and this is the point just highlighted, is that sometimes you need to take an extra internship in order to facilitate your entry into a job or to get yourself a little bit more experience to buy time. And these are all important strategies which we try to teach our students, and clearly they are working.
We're now reaching the end of our live session, but before leaving us, we are going to talk, and you are going to give us the last advice that you want to share with the people watching us today. Let's begin with you, Noor. What would be your life advice for maybe the future students of the PSIA program?
Thanks for the question. I think my one main takeaway and piece of advice would be not to hesitate to communicate with people. I think that's the biggest thing. If there are any questions, to reach out to whatever Sciences Po contact you know might be able to answer your question. Hopefully, fingers crossed, for those who get admitted, to not hesitate to reach out to people who are also admitted, to form a community before you even come to France. The relationship building side of it is really critical. So I would say that would be the biggest thing is make sure you're really taking advantage of the access to meet and to really form relationships with people.
Same question for you, IQ. What would be your last advice for the people watching us today?
All right. So I have a very important message that I would like to convey. I hope that my press here in this forum, with all intersecting identities that I have as a person coming from emerging economies, as a minority, resonate with many more people, especially women, and encourage them to pursue their higher education. That France is a really great place to study, and Sciences Po embrace values, diversity, and inclusivity. So do not hesitate to pursue your master degree here with us in Sciences Po and in France. Yeah.
Anthony, what would be your last advice for the people watching us today?
Yeah, of course. So I would tell everyone to just enjoy all the moments you have with your peers. I think the SIA student body was one of my favorite things about studying in Paris. And I think, taking that opportunity to learn from your colleagues, from your peers around you, traveling with them, just expanding your mind, not just from the textbooks, from the scholarly articles and other things you might be reading for class, but just listening to your peers and hearing their perspectives as well, because they do come from different backgrounds. And as an American, it's very eye-opening to not just hear some of the same perspectives that you would hear in the US, but hear perspectives from all around the world. And it's important to take the realities of these each individual person's experiences into account. And right now, I interact with a variety of people from different backgrounds, different religious, ethnic, political, social backgrounds. And I think PSIA allowed me to take this on successfully because of how diverse the student body was. And I think my biggest piece of advice is to learn from this student body and to enjoy every moment of it.
Same question for you, Cecilia. What would be your life advice for the future students watching us today?
First, I want to say that I love each of the advice that were given just now, but our students and alumni, I found them all really, really great. Maybe to say something complementary and different, just have a look at the PSIA web page. Really look at our curriculum. I think make this enthusiasm grow in yourself to really feel the excitement of maybe in the future be part of our courses. I think it's always great to look at the course descriptions, to see who are the professors, and I think it's important for your personal statement as well to show us that you did your homework in terms of knowing what we offer.
And Mark, what would be your very last advice?
Yeah, my last. I mean, I follow completely the consistent nature messages shared by everyone else. The one thing I would just add is that PSIA will challenge you, and we do that intentionally. You will find yourselves amongst the best and the brightest in the world, and it's one of the most amazing experiences you'll have. But it has to be the right experience for you. Only you will know, as Cecilia said. You need to look carefully at what our offer is. Obviously, we provide lots of information about that, but it's got to be what your heart tells you as well. And so think carefully about what your program is. Put that in your motivation letter to explain where you've come from, what you want to do with us, and where you think that's going to lead. And that will give you the best chance of getting an offer of a place with us. We hope you're up to the challenge. We certainly would love to have you study with us.
Thanks a lot, Mark, Katarina, Cecilia, Noor, Aiku, and Anthony for your time today and for having shared all of this information.
Thank you, Guillaume.
And thanks to you for having watched us. If you still have questions about PSIA, you can go directly on the website of the program to discover more about the different masters and to maybe have more information. And see you soon on Campus France Live.